Today I'm building a small theme park in Parkitect. Will I be able to make this park the best in the world with not a lot of land? The landowner has given us this little piece of paradise, but there's a catch. No entrance fees allowed. We have to attract 600 guests. The more guests we attract, the more land he will grant us. Welcome to Timber Creek, a scenario that offers a unique challenge, a tiny plot of land by a charming sawmill, perfect for a few roadside attractions. As you can see, we're starting off with just a small square of land. It's going to be a tight squeeze, but I'm confident we can make it work. We'll need to be strategic, building compact rides and attractions that can draw in the crowds we need. After all, our goal is to get 600 guests in the park, which is not easy. Now, the standard park entrance wasn't just cutting for me, so I decided to add a bit more flair. I decided to theme this park to a European village, maybe in the Rhine or Danube, so the arch makes for a triumphant entrance. While Parkitect might seem like a simple game, you can make fantastic architecture, all with the power of the cube and other pieces. You see, we need to get the proportions right. Thankfully, in this game, it's quite easy with a grid system. That's why Parkitect is such an incredible game. With the pieces, we can build the columns of each arch. This arch is basically an amalgamation of classical arches from around Europe. I decided to kick things off with some small flat rides and essential amenities like a food court. Given the limited space, we're going to need to be efficient in our layout. Then for the buildings, I went for this German, rustic theme, fitting perfect with our park. We hit our first milestone, 100 guests. That means we got a little more land to play with. Time to expand and start thinking about our first roller coaster. After all, Parkitect is just like Roller Coaster Tycoon 1 and 2, and we can't have a theme park game without roller coasters. Our park needs a standout attraction to attract more guests and of course make us money. What better than the monorail coaster, which in real life is the single rail coaster by RMC. It's compact, efficient and perfect for this tight space. The goal is to maximize guest throughput while keeping the layout realistic and thrilling as to make our guests not vandalize everything. Then we need to expand our village as we want more than just a few buildings. I want this park to be immersive. But you may ask, how do we accomplish that? Well, let's take inspiration from the real world. Parks like Phantasialand accomplish this by having architecture that fits onto the story of the park. The new area, Rockburg, features tall buildings, giving a feeling as if you are part of the story. We don't need a massive budget. Parks like Dollywood accomplish immersion by fitting the buildings onto the story. If we have a lot of buildings themed to a variety of architectural styles, by keeping with that European theme, we could have an immersive park. In fact, most buildings are more of a facade than functional, proper buildings. But it's a good way to hide the flat rides, right? Then we need a focal point, or as it's called in the theme park industry, a weenie. So I'm building this clock tower, which are a cliché in theme parks, especially theme parks themed to German, European villages, but it works. Once again, I use the cube pieces to create the details of the building, and by using this inverted pyramid, I can add more detail to the building. While figuring the tower design was a bit of a challenge, especially with the basic shapes to create an interesting design that's not too vanilla. But I'm happy with the final results. So this is how our park looks so far. But don't worry, as we just begun to dream, it's about to get even more immersive. Now, we are approaching the waterfront. The waterfront is a really important area for our theme park. Historically, waterfronts were important spaces for the cities. In Paris, we have the Ile de la Cité, where the Notre Dame is located, which is the historical heart of the town. Other cities like Copenhagen also took advantage of the waterfront by making it a center for commerce and trade. And so, I wanted to highlight this by making the area near the lake quite dense. We start building this German-inspired building. You can see the wooden framework, which was an important part of such buildings. In Parkitect, we can use the grid system and take these pillar pieces to simulate a framework. After all, most buildings in theme parks are fake. Another important part of the architecture is the color. Usually it's good to have at least 3 colors. for your building, at least in Parkitect. That would be one for the walls, one for the cornices and supports, and one for the roof. We can add even more color if we want, like adding a base to the building. This park is also inspired by Dollywood in the Smoky Mountains. Dollywood is one of those great parks because it's not based on distant lands or fantastical places. In fact, it's quite local. It's based on the vernacular architecture and culture of the Appalachians. So our theme park will be based on a similar idea, but instead of America, it's the Rhine River. So we'll have one main theme and different areas that expand on that. This area will house another food court and some seating, giving us a place to relax and enjoy the scenery. Then we can use those cube pieces to create more details for the buildings. This area should be more rustic as we approach the forest area, so it creates a nice dynamic. We can see that for the roofs I'm using the pyramid piece that came with the Taste of Adventures DLC. It's great because it's texture, which is another important element in theme park design. So the lesson is when you want to create incredible architecture, focus on the shape, the detailing and the textures. The shapes would be the floor plan and the sections. The detailing would be the ornamentation or framing in this case, and the textures are the materials we use. As we unlock more land, it's time for the big one, a launched steel coaster. This coaster features a tight layout, which fits perfectly into the rugged terrain, and it's going to be the main attraction that draws in those final guests into the park. The coaster is inspired by Tennessee Tornado in Dollywood. However, this is a Schwarzkopf roller coaster, not an arrow. It's also a terrain coaster, which means many near misses with overgrown trees. So we have a loop with the track going through, and we have a water tower element that soaks the guests. The coaster takes advantage of the sawmill theme as well. The coaster is compact, but it packs a punch. With its loop and quick-paced elements, it's designed to fit snugly within our limited space, while still delivering a thrilling ride. Then we unlock more land, which means a new coaster coming soon. So we went for this simple spinning coaster. These rides are not particularly cool, but they do pack a punch, especially if you have a ride vehicle all to yourself. But here is where the fun kicks in. I decided to build a village on the shores of the lake. But what if the coaster went into such village? Well, this is what I'm building, and so the coaster adds to the story of the park. As you can see, the building here have a larger scale, making you feel small compared to this building. I added this wooden bridge below the block zone of the coaster and started building another block of houses on the shores of the river. The building has a base that seems to be made of rocks, then a wooden section with framing, creating a nice contrast between the first floor and second floor. Then we can use the border pieces to create the framing for our building. The roof is again a pyramid piece using darker colors. By adding a flag, we add an element of storytelling to the building. Then we detail to make it fit onto the storyline of our park. Just beyond the bridge, I began constructing another structure on the riverbank, adding to the park's growing landscape. This new building is thoughtfully designed with a sturdy base that appears to be made of rocks, giving it a grounded and natural feel. Above the rocky foundations, the wooden section is framed with detailed border pieces, echoing the rustic sawmills. The building also needs a hole in the middle to allow the coaster car to safely traverse it. The coaster also has an elevator lift hill that adds an extra level of excitement to the roller coaster. Then we add another similar building, and we can change the scale of the building by changing the height of the windows, making this building seem much larger than it actually is. At the border, we have a transitional building between high-density areas of the park and the grasslands, as to not disrupt the natural areas around us, except all the sound pollution we're making, of course, but let's keep that a secret between ourselves, okay? Then we take some marketing to attract people to our park. We need influencers, social media people, television, radio, huge billboards, and of course, milk carton promotions. With all these popular attractions, we are able to achieve our goals. But don't fret, as it's not over yet. We still need to build a few buildings, right? The other side of the river needs a focal point, so I was inspired by this building I saw in Santiago. It has a bright red color scheme with wooden framework, so I recreated something like that. Then we expanded this building right next to it to frame the red house in the background. This building is functional, but it's only accessible to the staff members. Wow, that was a lot of work. Let's tour the park, starting my favorite area, the riverfront. Seeing the roller coaster passing through is such a great concept. There are also some other buildings here that just look great. Some of these were inspired by a hotel in Parc Astérix, France. Our red single rail coaster is a great experience if you like thrills. And there we have it, Timber Creek, a small but mighty park that started with just a tiny plot of land and grew into a thriving attraction. A worldwide destination, if you will. We hit our goal, proving that even the smallest parks can pack in the fun. After all, size doesn't matter. Now, if you want to see even more fun, well, click on one of these videos on the screen right now and enjoy the ride.